And I can see now we're not keeping that in the episode.
Thank you for being a pal.
What's up, pals, and welcome back to episode 6 of Pen Tool Pals, a friendly graphic design podcast between two graphic designers. I'm Cole from Cole F Design.
I'm Cam from Canvas Design Company. Welcome back.
Thanks for tuning in again this week. We got some awesome questions from you guys last week that we're going to start to answer and talk about. We love hearing from you guys, so keep it up with your comments and asking anything that you want to hear from us in each and every episode. You know, we want to hear from you. We want to talk about things that you're interested in and keep this open discussion of dialogue open about graphic design and what we do on a day-to-day.
I've been really excited about seeing everyone's comments on our content, seeing how these episodes have been like helping them. When I first started design, like I needed something like this to grow because there were so many answers that I was looking for that I just didn't have the right, outlook, and I didn't have the right outlet. And so I'm happy to see that a lot of people are, coming to our podcast and hearing these things and, getting the answers that they're looking for. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And having that outlet, like you said, is huge. And being able to provide that for you guys is fulfilling for us. And, we want this to be a collective group of people. So get involved, keep asking those questions, reach out to us whenever you need. We're here for you.
All right, guys. So this is a segment we like to call Pal of the Week, where we showcase our pals of the pod who support the channel, support us, support the podcast. This week is actually one of my good friends, Carson, Rebel Lion Artwork. He submitted his art. He's one of those guys to where he always comes to me for advice and what tools I'm using for this and that, critiques, and I'm always down to help him. He's one of those dudes that I love to help, just how I am open to answering questions to you guys.
Huge thanks to you, Carson, for submitting some artwork and joining our awesome evolving group of Pals of the Week. We're super stoked to keep seeing you guys submit some awesome work, get involved with the podcast, and we'll keep this thing going for weeks to come. So thank you, Carson.
All right, guys. So last week we put out a poll right after we dropped episode 5, just asking you, what do you guys want to hear? And Matt Rico 59 asks, tools, like what type of programs / mediums do you guys use to create? It blows my mind how many design programs there are besides the ones that, we use, I use. And so when people ask this question, I have to take in mind that not everyone knows, like, Adobe Illustrator. I use Procreate every single day. I know that there's other programs out there, but the ones that I've found successful is, one, pencil to paper, drawing out concept ideas and then putting it over into Procreate, kind of building a layer system with still a pencil feel, and then, dragging it over into Adobe Illustrator and then just ironing out the details, making the vector graphic, searching through fonts, discovering what works and what doesn't. But usually Adobe Illustrator is the end all be all. Sometimes I'll have stuff over in Photoshop if it's more of like a raster based design, like a t-shirt.
If you're in the graphic design world, you need to know about Adobe Illustrator. It doesn't mean you have to use it, but
yeah,
it seems to be the industry standard. If you're going to be serious about your graphic design career, I would definitely recommend at least taking a shot at Adobe Illustrator, because having a vector-based artwork is going to be super key when it comes to providing clients their final works. Vector is like the bottom line thing to provide when it comes to screen printing, when it comes to large poster-based things. If you're going to have something that's blown up huge, it needs to be vector. So for me, I've grown up using Adobe Illustrator. I was very lucky to be introduced to it at such a young age. And I've stuck with it, which I think is good and bad. I feel like you need to evolve in today's day and
Definitely.
age. And I think that I need to start branching a little bit more towards some of these animation programs as well. But there's a lot of jokes about like a Corel Draw or a PowerPoint
I
or
learned on Corel Draw.
yeah.
Yeah, I that was my high school was one of the few that I've heard of that had like a graphic design class. And yeah, the school had CorelDRAW, and that's how I learned Vector. And then once I moved over to Adobe Illustrator, it was like they were similar but still so different.
Yeah. Yeah. Just crazy. I mean, like, there's so many things to use out there. Just use what's good for you. But
Yeah,
again, like, if you don't know about
industry standard.
Illustrator, yeah, if you don't know about Illustrator and you're serious about being a graphic designer, I would definitely recommend Illustrator. It's
Yeah.
thought of to be as the industry standard.
All right. And so our second question, and this is really what this episode is about. This question sparked a whole episode really, and that's our favorite kind of questions. This one comes from, I'm assuming, Mike, but let's go MKEJMS, Mike Jams. But his question is branding yourself and coming up with a name. The coming up with a name, man, like that hits home for me because, like, for the most part, I've had this name for a long, long time, and I still didn't brand it as my main company. And once I finally did, everything started moving forward for me. So, but that sparks the question: how do we start our businesses? How do we come up with the name, and how do we brand ourselves? So, Cole, what's your story?
Yeah, I mean, I also think there's two sections of it too, because I think one is how do we come up with a name, and how do you come up with a name, either whether it be for like a client or yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and back in like let's say like 10 years ago, coming up with a name was a lot easier because like there was much more domains available. There's a like, there wasn't
Jeez, I
like
know.
every Instagram handle taken, right? There's like now a whole industry has been developed just by like buying up domains or buying up Instagram handles. And that makes it really difficult. Now you have to be so much more creative to come up with these names that like hasn't been taken already.
Yeah.
So when I first started, and even today, you have to like come up with a list of names and then go straight to like a GoDaddy to see if they're available. And so for me, I was running out of so many names, and to like today, looking back at those names, I'm just happy I didn't go with them because a lot of them would have, um, I don't think they would have developed into today's setting as well as something like Spruce did. I think that it
Yeah.
really became something that was just like broad enough to where I was able to brand it to be what I wanted it to be. And it really was just a story of like me and my buddies would always go to lunch after high school around the same circle, and Spruce was one of the streets we would pass by every day. And
Nice.
I saw the sign. I like the name. It also rhymes with Bruce, which is my dad's name,
Oh, cool.
and that really had no true correlation. But the jokes that were able to be made, like following, just kind of made it this fun thing that we were able to be like, this, that, whatever. But that's how the origins of Spruce was created. But how about you,
Absolutely.
Cam? How did you come up with Canvas in itself?
Canvas in itself. So I mean, my dad was a painter. He was a sign painter, and he was like a scenery painter. But he painted on canvas, and so that's how he kind of taught me. First, I was up at a coffee shop on the edge of town, and I knew I wanted to start a clothing brand. I really loved owls my whole life, and so I started drawing out different owls, and I really stumbled upon this one. And over time, it condensed down to what it is now, and it's the circle owl head. Um, so I drew out this full owl, and I needed a name, and so it went around for a few days, and I went over to my dad's, and I was hanging out with him, and he was painting on a canvas, and I just thought of it, and I was like, canvas. And so Canvas Design Company wasn't a thing yet. It was Canvas Wear. And I had for a number of years, I just put out merch. But I really started to like fall in love with, design instead of putting out merch. And I had, Werner Creative Design, which is just my last name. And I was shuffling too many things. I was doing Werner Creative Design, canvas wear while working a day job.
Is there correlation of the owl that like it represents something to the brand name, or was it something that just kind of was like, this feels like right?
It's just always felt right. Like I drew the owl, and because my love for barn owls, it just canvas and that owl felt so synonymous with each other. When I started trying to figure out what I was going to do with, Werner Creative Design and canvas wear, I was just like looking around, and Draplin was an inspiration behind that. So like I was like, oh, Draplin Design Company sounds really good. How about Canvas Design Company? And it's not like I was initially copying his idea, copying like him. It was just it sounded so good for the direction that I wanted to go in. He made this joke. He made this joke a while back on a podcast where he was just like, yeah, he was like, I'm all your dads, how many design companies there are out there after Draplin Design Company. And then he goes on to say like, he heard it somewhere too. But, at the end of the day, Canvas Design Company just sounded so good. It fell in line. So I posted a graphic on my Instagram the other day, and it's sparked some conversation topics from you, but also a few other people. People really liked it, so I thought, why not talk about it on the podcast? So here's a little breakdown of this design that I did last year, Brave New World. So I basically just built out some of this type. I knew that I wanted to use it as like a pennant design, so I built it with this triangle, this pennant shape around it. I made just different versions of it with different colorways, and here's a version of it with the pennant shape around it. I had the intention of making this. The project just got so away from me that I never actually ended up pulling the trigger. So I made like an actual mock-up of the pennant, different colorways using the three colors. And then I added a little bit of a bend to it, gave it more character. And this is when I realized like, I can post this because this just has so much character. It was during the time when, all those rallies were happening, and my heart was just with those people. And I was just thinking about how the world is changing, and, Brave New World kept on coming to mind. So I thought it was a really cool thing to design.
Yeah, so this is a project that I posted this week for a new client of mine. This guy comes up with really awesome ideas. He's been great to work with. But he wanted a pretty vintage retro wave.
Cool.
The project brief was pretty straightforward. He gave me some reference photos that were in line with this style, that all worked well. He wanted the front head as well, which turned out to be, the final here.
Very
But
cool.
what I love the most about when you give your designs to a client and they go and like make it come to life, and that's when
Oh, bad.
you get these photos back of the what they do with it, right? And I just think that's the coolest thing. So he sent me these 3 photos, which I just love. They made the artwork look really, really cool.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties back to why I started Spruce in the first place, is because I didn't want to keep my artwork locked up in my drawers like it normally was, and I
Yeah.
wanted my artwork like on the back of as many people as I could, and I wanted that to be like basically people were just going to be like walking billboards for my artwork, and that's why I started a clothing company. So this all ties back to like what I love the most about design, and it's people enjoying what you create for them. And apparel is the easiest way for that to
Yeah.
be that in itself, right? Someone buys your t-shirt and they wear it.
All right, guys. Well, another episode of Pen Tool Pals in the books. 6 episodes. Cole, Super stoked to be doing this with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to get you guys involved. Pal of the week, comment, ask us questions. We really want to hear from you guys. So keep them coming, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for being a pal.
Thank you for being a pal.